So the world's changing, and I see more and more often where those kids never leave the house, or like the Matthew McConaughey movie, Failure to Launch. So how do you plan for retirement when you'll never have an empty nest? We'll talk about it on today's show.
Well, it's an interesting topic on today's show as we talk about empty nesters that never actually get there for one reason or another. I'm Walter Storholt. Welcome to the show here on the Pilot's Advisor alongside the Pilot's Advisor himself, Ryan Fleming. And Ryan, I think this is really interesting. Now, there's a particular reason for this topic on today's show. A viewer actually sent in this question, but I know we'll be able to kind of broaden this out a little bit to the other reasons that this tends to happen. Again, how do you plan for retirement when you're not going to have an empty nest? So this question comes to us from a pilot. Don't have a name for this one, Ryan, so that's okay. But this person says, my son is an adult, but he's somewhere on the autism spectrum and will probably be living with us for the rest of our lives. He has a job, but I don't really see him being able to live alone. How do I factor this into our retirement planning since we'll never really experience the empty nest?
Well, I think that's a great question, and I've actually dealt with this with a few of my clients, and it definitely changes the retirement planning picture. I think legacy planning becomes even more important, having a trust to figure out how those funds are divvied out to take care of that child throughout the course of adult throughout the course of his life. But when I hear that question, it reminds me a little bit more of what we're dealing with as a society today. And it's for many, many reasons. I mean, like if we look at the real estate market alone, since interest rates were so low for so long, and then they basically doubled, everybody's buying power got cut in half, but prices didn't go down. And if you start looking at it right now, there's a massive amount of inventory that's starting to build up in the real estate market. And what's happened is kids are living at home with their parents. They can't afford to go out and in many cases even rent an apartment. So I see more and more where pilots are taking care of their kids, whether that's healthy or not. It's becoming more and more of a situation. So I think it's a good thing to talk about.
Yeah, whether it's because of a situation with maybe a disabled person in your home that's going to be part of your journey for a longer period of time than maybe what you planned for originally, or just like you said, maybe it's that failure to launch reason, or just the economic factors forcing people to be on the payroll longer. And for some people, it's in different shapes and forms, right? Some people, it's just, hey, I'm still paying the kid's cell phone bill and they're 35, or maybe it's still paying for healthcare for a really long period of time, or helping out with these bills or that bills, or living at home. A lot of reasons why this can pop up. Why is that retirement planning budget going to look different if we're looking at some of these key areas of planning that go under a shift when this happens?
Yeah, and I'd like to pivot on this a little bit, because I think if we're talking about a child that has some mental disabilities or is on the spectrum, it's a much different conversation. I think just looking at it from the standpoint of kids aren't leaving the house. And once again, I said the failure to launch in the intro because I think of that Michael or
Matthew McConaughey movie.
Yeah, the Matthew McConaughey movie where he's like 45, still living with his parents, and looking at that side of things. Your retirement budget is going to look a lot different because maybe your kids are living at home and they're putting money away and trying to save for that first house or whatever it is that they're doing. And let's hope they have a job. But regardless, if you still have them in the house, it's affecting your budget. It's affecting how much you're paying in your electric bill. It's affecting how much water you consume. In most cases, they're not paying for food either. So when you factor in all those household expenses that are going to continue to go on, it's a big deal. Also, you might not be able to downsize. Many people think about once the kids leave, we'll move or downsize in retirement, and that goes out the window because you still need this extra bedroom or two.
Yeah, if you're not just two anymore,
you're
still at the three or more.
That condo or whatever it was is not as appealing. So you might be still cutting the grass and doing yard work, or even paying somebody to do the lawn as well. That adds into your budget.
Point. Yeah, it's a great point.
So.
I guess, and it depends on the situation, obviously, if we're talking healthcare or what kind of disability we're looking at, physical versus mental, or again, just the failure to launch angle. But there are some legal and financial things that I would imagine kind of start to bubble up in these conversations.
Yeah, we talked about that with one of my clients before where, there's a special needs trust or supplemental needs trust. This is where it gets a lot more complicated, and you'll want to talk to a trust attorney that specializes in that, or even looking into what kind of government benefits you might get in that situation. So exploring the role or finding an attorney that specializes in that when you're talking about special needs is definitely something you should do. And I've experienced that with a pilot client already. If it's just the children, don't assume that they're going to take care of you. I mean, I see a lot of individuals that are sacrificing their retirement savings to take care of their kids, just assuming that their kids are going to take care of them down the road. And I always say, don't sacrifice your retirement for them, because there's no guarantees that they're going to do that.
Yeah. Not only that, I guess it works in the reverse as well. If you're in a situation where you're taking care of the child or the adult, the adult in this situation, based on this particular question, but like at some point you may not be able to take care of them either, just like they might not be able to take care of you. That's kind of a two-way street as you age and get further into retirement.
Well, and it's sad, but these are conversations that nobody wants to have, or they very rarely have. And there's certain cultures out there that I think do an amazing job historically of taking care of their elders. And unfortunately, we as Americans are not one of those. It seems to be a much more selfish type of society where as people age, they become a burden. If you have to have that parent or, spouse's parent move in with you, it becomes, not a, hey, let's take care of them in their prime. But I hear more people talking about is the financial burden or the time burden or having a lack of patience for dealing with their needs. And so these are definitely the hard questions that you have to talk about. And it definitely complicates things.
Attention aviators, when you've spent years in the cockpit managing the complexities of flight, isn't it time you navigated your retirement with the same precision? Introducing retirepilots.com. Right at your touchdown zone on our homepage, there's a beacon flashing, "Get my free toolkit." Click that and you'll be cleared for a direct route to Ryan's retirement toolkit, tailor-made for pilots like you. Inside, you'll find two of his important works, The Pilot's Advisor and Pilots Retire Early. Between these two books, you can decipher the 9 critical decisions when retiring before 65 and discover the 7 lessons to help pilots land safely in retirement. But that's not all. This toolkit is packed with altitude-high value, including extras to get your retirement plans off the runway and light the afterburners on your 401k. Vector on over to retirepilots.com to grab your toolkit, and let's embark on this journey together. I guess, Ryan, the reality is every client's going to be a little bit different, right? You're going to have some that have a very high motivation for that personal care being part of the plan, and others who are not going to want to deal with that. And so financially, they're going to be leaning more in the direction of hiring professional help. You as the planner, I guess, have to kind of agnostically approach that and say, whatever your wishes are, I'll help you make the plan work. But these are the financial consequences of not having mom move in with you, or of not having your adult live with you longer, your adult child live with you through retirement. And here are the alternatives, but here's the financial consequence. You got to balance all of that, right?
You have to balance it all. And it really tells me how there's a huge emotional component to any type of planning. I mean, if you're going to truly have talks about what retirement looks like, to talk about the freedom and flexibility, to talk about taking on a parent or a spouse's parent into the house, it complicates a lot of issues, and many people don't want to talk about those things. Lifelong caregivers, going to nursing homes, nobody wants to discuss those things. But the one thing that's consistent with all of it, money. It affects the budget. It affects how that retirement is going to look. And so having a plan and talking about it, as painful as that is much better than having no plan at all.
sometimes in planning, it's really easy to just look at the financial component. This is definitely one where we've got to balance that with all of the emotional components and relational components that kind of come into this. And that can be some of the hardest planning that you do.
Yeah, and that was one hell of a mailbag question. We've run with this for a little bit. It's almost I'm depressed, but it just goes to show when life happens. I mean, or if you do have a special needs child, that things become more complicated, and you'll want to reach out to an attorney and or a financial advisor to help you plan for that situation, because it will have a significant difference in your retirement.
Yeah. Moral of the story is it's another layer to the planning process. So you need even more attention, perhaps more guidance and advice through things like this. So if you're a pilot that has maybe a situation like this popping up in your life, extra care going to be needed. And this was a question about the adult son living with them through their retirement years, but it might be that aging parent and navigating that piece. Obviously, that's a close cousin of a conversation to this one, as we touched on. Whatever your situation may look like, it's always helpful to get that customized advice, guidance, and reflection. And you can do that with Ryan, the pilot's advisor, very easily. The best place to start is to order your retirement toolkit. Part of that toolkit, in addition to resources, books, and other great information, is also the opportunity for a free portfolio analysis with Ryan one-on-one to see where you stand right now in your financial plan and how to improve your financial situation moving forward. See if you're a good fit to work with one another. So click the link in the description of today's show if you want to access that free retirement toolkit and get that portfolio analysis. And other than that, don't forget to hit like on today's video so it shares it and helps promote it to other people so that they can get that kind of help, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode in the future. Ryan, thanks so much for the help. We appreciate it.
As always, Walter, thanks for your time. You guys flying around the world, fly safe.
Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, investment, or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action.